Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you who are joining us from every corner of the globe. We are extremely delighted to this auspicious event, Fix My Food, where we'll be sharing on the synthesis of children's and adolescents' perspectives on food environments, on food practices, and the kind of transformation that children and adolescents desire to see in our food systems. So I think we can all agree that our food systems are broken. And they are failing. They are failing for our environment, failing for our biodiversity, failing for our health, failing for our livelihoods, and failing for our children. And just because of that fact, then our food systems are failing for our future. And so then it's really crucial that we need to deliver nutritious, safe, and affordable diets for all children. And this is quite central in the food systems transformation agenda, not only on a global level, but also on a national level for every child everywhere. I think I really like UNICEF's slogan, for every child everywhere. And so I think I can go on and on, but today is not all about me. It's about the powerful line of speakers that we do have and the voices of children, adolescents who will be dominating this session. I'm just incredibly privileged moderator. I am Victor Mugo, a young farmer from Nairobi, Kenya, growing high iron beans for the school-going children, and also the co-chair to the Youth Liaisons Group of the UN Food System Summit. And so as we begin, we are incredibly grateful for our hosts, UNICEF, as well as Western Sydney University for convening us here. And as customary in Western Sydney University, who are one of our hosts, really, we will want to begin with a brief welcome video to the country video, which acknowledges Indigenous people, who, of course, are the guardians of our nature and the guardians of our galaxy. And so, technical team, kindly take it away with the video.
My name's Matilda Harry.
And I'm Luke Hodge, and we are both proud Aboriginal staff and students here at Western Sydney University. Together, we would like to acknowledge the sovereign custodians upon the lands of which our campuses stand.
We acknowledge the elders, past, present and emerging, of the Darug, Eora, Dharawal and Wiradjuri nations, and we would like to thank them all for allowing us to continue our business and education on their lands. Western Sydney University is committed to Indigenous excellence and knowledges, as we aim to promote a strong network of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander staff, students, alumni, researchers and elders. We would also further like to extend our respects to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander prospective students and guests with us today.
Absolutely great. And so it's so lovely to see that video and that such a welcoming video for all of us. And so thank you so much, Western Sydney University, for such a lovely kickoff for this session. And so now, before we can get the ball rolling, I just have one announcement and one very simple ask. So first on the announcement is just to let you know that this session is being recorded, and by continuing to view, then you give consent for the event to be recorded, but also for you to also be recording in the session. And now I also have a very, very small ask. And so there's this millennial proverb that says that if it did not happen on social media, then it probably never happened. So I think we can follow any advice and of millennials. And so I encourage you to share the conversations happening on this session virtually on social media. And so let's spread the good word about the conversation that is happening here. Our official hashtag for this event is MyFoodMatters. And so I think it will be displayed on the chat section so that we can be able to pick it up and also use it to publicize and to showcase what we are doing here. And so now, ladies and gentlemen, I just reminded that in less than 48 hours, the UN Food System Summit, the People Summit, will be kicking off. And so in it, nations will be launching bold new actions to transform food systems as a solution that drives prosperity for people and planet. And children's dreams, visions, perspectives, and voices are incredibly important for food systems transformation. And so I think this event is not only important, I think it's also very, very timely. However, we will not be here if it were not for two very incredible leaders, Ms. Henrietta Fore, the UNICEF Executive Director, as well as Dr. David Nabarro, the Special Envoy of WHO, Director General on COVID-19. And so as preparations for the Food Systems Summit were happening, ED4 and Dr. David Nabarro met last year to discuss how UNICEF could best support the Food Systems Summit dialogues initiatives. 1 year later, we are incredibly lucky and privileged and proud that 60 dialogues have been able to happen in about 18 countries that have covered the lived experiences of about 700 children, as well as insights from about 22,000 young children and adolescents that have been gathered through the U report poll. So today we are gathered here to hear about all these children's priorities for food systems transformation. And so to start us off, help me in welcoming UNICEF's director, Ms. Henrietta Fore, to give us her opening remarks. She will then introduce Dr. David Nabarro. So Ms. Henrietta Fore, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Victor. So I really don't need to introduce David Nabarro, but he is a great friend and one of the co-winners of the Borlaug Prize. So David is well known to all of us, but Victor, you said something. You said this is not about you, and yet it actually is about you. We need great young farmers just like you. So it is about you, and it's about all of the young people and the children who are on this line. We cannot have a world without you. So it's all about you. So David and I are here to not only salute Western Sydney University, which we do, a great partner, and all of our partners around the world who are helping on this. So it was a year ago, David will remember exactly when we spoke about the UN Food Systems Summit. And David, you're the one who introduced me to it and to the idea of food systems dialogues, which I thought was a great idea. And Victor just mentioned that we've had a good number. So UNICEF and our colleagues in the last 3 months have reached out and had more than 60 of these dialogues in 20 countries, both very wealthy and poor countries, in rural and urban settings. So there's a variety of experiences to get 700 young people to share their thoughts and ideas. So what is a lived experience? How are they reacting to their food systems in country, and what would they want to see? And then we also went on to the U report line, and we had another 22,000 responses, which gives us a very interesting view into how children and young people view the food system world around them. So David, you're the creator, you're the genesis. So what do you think about the dialogues?
Henrietta, it was the 20th of November last year, and I remember it really well. Our colleague Victor was there, and I remember saying to you, food has to shift from being seen just as a commodity that's traded on markets to seen as an absolutely vital resource that connects people with each other, but also connects people to the planet. But if we're saying that, then we can't focus on food as the great connector if 20% of those who are consuming food just aren't part of the conversation. Where are the young people, I said to you. And I said it because actually I believe that people of my age, and you know I'm a bit north of 70 at the moment, people of my age really need to recognise that the focus has to be on generations to come. Whether we're talking about health crises like COVID, or climate change, or the loss of biodiversity, or migration, or food. The focus has to be on those people that are coming into adolescence and into adulthood, because the work we do is for them. So I want to say to you, Henrietta, and to the countless UNICEF staff and supporters who are either on this call or connected to people on this call, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because you brought the voices of young people into this enormous dialogue that's involving 148 countries and at least 80,000 people. But if it hadn't been for you, I believe we would have been missing the people who most need to be there, the world's young people. Thank you, Henrietta. Thank you, UNICEF. Great.
Oh, David, that's so wonderful. No wonder you've been a friend of ours for so long. I'm just, I'm so proud of everything that we have been doing together with all of our partners. So, David, I think that we're clear that young people and children need to be at the center of this discussion because it is their world. But next, we ought to do something about what are the next steps? What's coming next? What concrete actions could we be taking? So, David, if you agree, we might put this request over to Victor so that we really think about what are the next steps. And to any of the young people who are going to be responding on this event, tell us what's next.
I'm all ears. Thank you again, Henrietta. I'll be listening hard.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
So I'm not sure if we might have lost Victor momentarily. We'll just work behind the scenes to reconnect him. Oh, here he is. Victor, back to you. Sorry. Victor, we don't seem to have your sound at the moment. So shall I step in and just keep things moving? Is that okay with you? Okay, thanks for the thumbs up. Okay, so my name's Professor Amanda Third. I'm co-director of the Young and Resilient Research Centre at Western Sydney University. And it's been my great pleasure to work alongside a team that crosses Western Sydney University and UNICEF to facilitate children's contributions to the UN Food Systems Dialogues. So on behalf of the two partner organisations, I want to begin by acknowledging, as ED4 and Dr. Navarro have already begun to acknowledge, that it's taken an enormous collaborative effort across international borders to enable the dialogues with children around the world. And I'm going to say a little bit more about that in a moment. But first, let me tell you a little bit about how children were consulted about their views on food systems transformation. So the food systems dialogues used two key methods, as ED4 has already indicated. On the one hand, UNICEF mobilized its U-Report social messaging and data collection platform to conduct quantitative surveys or polls with young people about their views and experiences of food systems. And this was supplemented, on the other hand, by qualitative data generation, a method that involved staging creative and participatory workshops with children and adolescents to enable them to explore the issues around food systems transformation and articulate their views so that those views could be fed back into the food systems dialogues that are taking place or that have been taking place around the world, culminating, of course, in the summit this week. To do so, we've used a method that was first developed by the Young and Resilient Research Centre at Western Sydney University, and which has been refined with a number of our partners, prominent of which is UNICEF. And it's now been used in over 10 large-scale projects to work with children to explore key issues that impact their everyday lives and to channel their insights and experiences into policy and practice outcomes. Now, this method involves designing, first of all, a set of creative and participatory workshop activities. We then bundle those activities up into a comprehensive workshop facilitators manual, which is then shared with experienced facilitators from UNICEF country offices or their partner organisations. And those facilitators implement the workshops with children Children complete a range of activities in small groups, and then the resulting data is shared with our team, and we've analysed that. And as you can see on this slide, the whole process of consulting children rolled out between May and September this year. So with that in mind, we're really, really excited that when it came to participation in the U-Report poll, 22,561 children and adolescents from 23 countries around the world, and you can see there a very diverse spread of nations, participated in those U-Report polls. And in total, over 700 children aged 10 to 19 in 18 countries participated in the Food Systems Dialogues workshops, so that in-depth exploration of children's and adolescents' views on food systems transformation. Now, as you can imagine, pulling off an in-depth consultation with children across 6 continents is no mean feat, and it's taken an enormous effort. We're hugely grateful to the UNICEF country officers in the 18 countries who were tireless in their efforts to implement these, to recruit the children and adolescents, and then to implement the workshops and work with us to make sense of the data. We're also deeply grateful to our colleagues at UNICEF who've supported with absolutely stellar coordination, and most of all, deeply grateful to the children and young people who've participated in that study. So I'd now like to hand over to my colleague, Catherine Fleming, who is a nutrition specialist in our team. She is in the School of Public Health and a leader of our participation and engagement stream in the Young and Resilient Research Centre. And Catherine's going to run through the key findings of the dialogues with children about their views on food system transformation. Over to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Amanda. And I feel very honoured to be here today with all of you as a messenger of what children shared with us about their food and how they think we can fix their food system. Overwhelmingly, through the workshops, the voices of children showed us the importance of food and what this means to them and their communities. I will now share with you some key findings children shared with us. Children's needs and aspirations should be central to food systems and is key to transforming the diets of children across the globe. So, we began the workshops by asking children to describe what food means to them and why it is important. For all children that participated, food is life. Children often describe food in terms of a fuel or a way to obtain and replenish energy essential for daily activities. Children also expressed how food is a key element to their survival, growth, and development. 78% of you respondents also noted that they ate or wanted to eat healthy foods. Beyond health, children described the fact that food brings joy and happiness. Food was seen to be far more than a functional item, but rather one that reflects their identity, place, and culture, and how sharing food facilitates connections with others. Children saw food as a symbol of unity and humanity that was important to their mental well-being and physical health. To develop a truly child-centered food system, we need to understand how children navigate their food environments, deciding what to eat, and where to buy it. When children discussed the food they preferred, they talked about taste, affordability, and healthiness. U-Report data also demonstrated that cost and safety of foods, followed by taste, were the biggest influences on their food choices. We know that eating can play a role in socialization during adolescence as well. In China and Zimbabwe, children talked about how popularity of foods could influence their food choices. U-Report data showed that children most commonly consumed unhealthy foods when hanging out with their friends. Children told us about a range of barriers which impacted their ability to consume foods that were healthy, nutritious, and sustainable. Food affordability was the top barrier identified by children, which was also supported by the U-Report data. Children knew the nutritious foods they would like to eat, but such foods are not available locally or were too expensive. Children also pinpointed challenges within the home environment that created barriers to eating healthy food. A lack of personal agency around food choice was common in some countries, with their parents deciding what food to buy and how to prepare the food. This was often based on cost rather than nutritional quality. During the workshops, children mapped a food system around them, visualizing the journey from growers and producers to their local communities and into their own households and families. Children demonstrated a deep understanding of food production, especially when it was a local staple food. Based on their understanding of food systems, children identified a key weakness related to availability of healthy food. Children discussed how this can be influenced by a range of factors, including low stock in markets and the distances that foods have to travel from farming areas. Children also talked about and recognized that seasonality broadly affected the availability and cost of certain foods. Children's maps highlighted the complex nature of food systems that influence their diet and nutrition. They also recognized how those food systems contribute to climate change and are impacted by the changing climate. Children were concerned about the distances their food travels. They were aware of the complexities of the food distribution process and how this contributes to pollution, leading to environmental degradation and climate change. Another concern for children is the poor quality of food due to water pollution, chemical fertilizers, and unhygienic markets. Children see an urgent need to transform food systems and to reduce their negative impact on people and the environment. To achieve this, children highlighted the role governments need to take in improving foods, food environments, and food practices. They want governments to be accountable for establishing and enabling food systems. These actions voiced by children are captured in 5 key recommendations. To engage, to listen to children and find ways to connect children and young people into debates to transform their food systems. Invest in sustainable foods for all children by incentivizing local production of nutritious foods and support the rights of Indigenous peoples. Educate children, families, farmers, and decision makers about nutritious and safe foods. Regulate, enforce policies to ensure food quality, safety, and pricing. Safeguard children from harmful marketing and control the use of chemicals. Reduce the impact of food systems on the environment by empowering communities to grow their own produce and support sustainable farming as a vocation for young people. In these workshops, children were bold in raising their voices and demanding change. Children feel that the existing food systems have failed to consistently provide nutritious and sustainable food. With this, children expressed a strong desire to be engaged in dialogue and action to transform their food systems. They call on governments and other stakeholders to work with them to create platforms for their ongoing participation in the process of food system transformation. Together, this great food transformation needs to get underway. The health, nourishment, and flourishing of future generations depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Amanda and Dr. Catherine Fleming, for that incredible work that you have already done. You have done the heavy lifting of just turning all those sentiments from young people really into insights and into this report. And so we really do appreciate the great work that you have done. And is it just interesting to see that the sentiments by young children and adolescents are quite similar with everyone else that that our food systems really are failing, are even failing for our environment, are failing for our health. And so it is really crucial that we need to change and transform our food systems now. I think this is an urgent imperative that we all need to do. And so thank you so much for that great work. We really do appreciate and look forward to the full synthesis that will be made available to all of us. There's a translation that is happening, and so if you would want to listen to this event through the Spanish language or through the French language, translation is available, and so you can just check on your Zoom platform, and you'll see translation options available for all of us who would want to do that. And now I think we'll go to the highlight of this event. I think it will be quite incredibly catastrophic or even unfortunate to speak about young people, to speak about children, to speak about adolescents without meaningfully involving them, without their meaningful participation. And so I really do believe in the slogan that says, nothing about youth without the youth is for the youth. And so now we can even translate it here. Nothing about children and adolescents without them is for them. And so I am really incredibly lucky to be flanked by 4 incredibly gifted young persons from different countries across the globe, from Zimbabwe, from China, from who will be our panelists today. I would have Pauline from Zimbabwe. If we could have Margarita from Netherlands, Kevin from China, and Mavis from Ghana, I would really appreciate that. So yeah, I see them together with us. So I think we'll start with Pauline. Pauline, will you just be so kind to introduce yourself in a few words? And then after that, take up this question that I think is really quite interesting and quite urgent as well. What are some of the biggest challenges that children in your country face, really, especially in terms of eating nutritious and safe diets? Pauline, if you'll be so kind to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Victor. Hi, everyone. My name is Pauline Mapumo. I'm a nutritionist from Zimbabwe. I'm very passionate about advocacy for nutrition for the youth. So to answer the question that has been asked, in Zimbabwe, the major challenge stems from 3 main things. Poor access to healthy food. Food is relatively expensive here. Poor nutrition knowledge and preference to unhealthy foods. To elaborate, some young people may have adequate knowledge as to which foods are healthy, but may not have access to it, or they may not even afford the foods in question. In addition, nutrition education is not as high as it should be in the country. Hence, certain groups have no means of differentiating between the good and the bad foods. Preference also plays a large role in the decision-making of the young people, which leads to consumption of the bad food, specific mention of over-processed and empty calorie foods. Unregulated or uncontrolled marketing of these unhealthy foods often makes young people perceive unhealthy foods as trendy, thus shaping their preferences even more. I think that's my brief explanation as to the challenges that we face here in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pauline, and for bringing that perspective, especially from Zimbabwe, really telling us that nutrition education is really quite important, and it really influences the kind of diets that young children will eat and will continue to eat. So Margarita as well, from the Netherlands, what is your perspective on this same question? What are some of the biggest challenges that children such as you in your country face to eat nutritious and healthy diets?
Yeah, well, in my country, there are a lot of unhealthy, cheap food, which are more tempting for children to eat and to buy, and so that's one of the biggest problems, I think. And it's also that, like, in little movies or little YouTube videos, they watch things like Happy Meal. Like my little sister, she watched some kind of things on YouTube which made her want to eat unhealthy food, and made her want to buy it, which made her eat unhealthy food.
Thank you so much, Margarita. I really like that you brought the kind of influence that social media, that the mainstream media is bringing across to young children. And this also influences the kind of diets that they will have. And so it is really imperative for us to look at what is being showcased out there. And is it meaningful? Is it helpful? Is it leading children to make wise choices? So much for that kind of perspective. We really do appreciate it. And all the way from China, we are flanked by Kevin. And Kevin, will you be so kind to answer the same question? In your country, what are some of the greatest challenges that children face in accessing and also eating nutritious and healthy diets?
Oh, I'm Wang Ziqi Kevin. Today is a classical festival, Mid-Autumn Festival in China. And it's a food festival to eat moon cake and fruits like pomegranate and best wishes for all of us. Well, I think the biggest challenge is junk food is often very tempting. So, it's very difficult to stop unhealthy eating, only my parental restraint and school education. My own personal experience has made me deeply aware of both problems. I remember I used to have the habit of snacking while studying or reading, especially last year when I was just in the middle school. As my studies gradually become more intensive, I was more addicted to foods rich in oil, calorie, and sugar, while spending less and less time exercising. Whenever my mom and dad reminded me, I rebutted them unhappily. These foods are really delicious and just love to eat junk. So I had to eat junk food secretly. Suddenly one day, I found that my belly got bigger, my face got rounder, and white and my clothes get smaller. What's wrong? I has gained weight. After protecting in rebellion activities by my family and school, I gradually realized harmfulness of junk food and started to exercise. I ate less junk food and ate more fruits and vegetables and all the healthy food and do more exercise. And nowadays, I'm quite healthy again. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, and for that really personal experience that you faced as well. I really agree with you that even during the COVID pandemic, most of us were not able to leave our houses. And so because of that, then we were really, we were able to see really less nutritious options for our foods. Food became really a challenge to access for many people across the globe. And because of this, then there were quite differences and challenges that came out of that. And so thank you so much, Kevin. We really do appreciate that personal story that you have already provided to us. And Mavis from Ghana, is this the same thing that you are facing in your country? Or are there any other challenges that children are facing in your country in terms of eating nutritious and healthy diets?
Yes, so I share in the experiences shared from my other colleagues, and that a lot of the times the food tends to be expensive. So people normally, especially children, they normally eat based on what they can afford. And I remember from the dialogues that we had previously in around June or July, a lot of the children were saying that they buy their foods based on the monies they have, based on what their parents have given them. And then we had some also buying the foods based on what they eat at home. So even if it's healthy or not, they are not aware of it, but they are eating because that is what they used to eat at home. So we have a lot of the children like that, meaning that they lack the knowledge when it comes to what is healthy or what is nutritious. And some of them also in actual sense don't even know what is healthy at all. And so a lot of the young people eat what they find around themselves and don't know what is actually good for them. But the affordability is one key thing that's run through all the experiences that were shared. And then also from the environment, that they don't get to buy their food from very unhealthy environment. So you find people by very filthy gutters selling, and they have to still purchase because that is the option they have as young people or as adolescents, having to eat in places that are unclean, but that is where they find themselves. And so they have nothing to do about it. So whether flies have settled on the food or not, because that is what they have, they'll eat it like that. And a lot of them buying it from the roadside because they said it was very expensive a lot of the times preparing the food by themselves, but they can buy it like in bits. And so buying from the people who are not really hygienic is also another major challenge that in Ghana a lot of the children and adolescents face. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mavis, for that, and also just showcasing how really a great population of the world are edged out of healthy food because they cannot be able to afford it. And I think, and I completely agree with you, that healthy diets should not be a privilege for only the rich. It should be available for everyone. And I think that's why we need to transform our food systems so that we can be able to bring this across. I also liked that your issue on hygiene, that really we should look at how food is not only produced, but also how it's prepared and how it's also presented for people to be able to purchase and to buy, because that also will create even more challenges going into the future if that is not handled. So thank you so much, Mavis. We really do appreciate your perspective all the way from Ghana. I think then this leads us to the next question, which is quite important. So I know you guys are great leaders. In no time, you will become the future policymakers. But at this moment in time, what is the most important thing that you want leaders to, or policymakers to do to strengthen our food systems? I think, Mavis, you can be able to start us off and just let us know, what do you think, in your own opinion, the greatest thing that leaders can do to strengthen our food systems?
Okay, thanks for that question. And so in my own opinion, when it comes to the food, having affordability as one of the major challenges, a lot of the times it happens that the food that are sold on the market are not really monitored by any policymaker. So everyone sells it at the price they want. So some may be selling it at a cheaper price, and then others the same amount or the same quantity selling at a higher price. And so it deprives some people who find themselves with those who are selling it at an inflated price, and no one monitors. And so the people who are supposed to purchase are at the disadvantaged point. So in my opinion, I believe that if policymakers would draft a policy or formulate anything to say that if this food stuff is sold at $1, everyone sells it at $1 and everyone would be able to purchase, so that if someone doesn't even have the money to afford, we all know that that is the price and no one is selling at an inflated one. But sometimes you budget and then you get to the market knowing that something is $2, and you get there, you are told it is $5, and then you can't afford it anymore because there's no monitoring system monitoring the people that are selling. They are selling it at their own profit, at their own interest. But policymakers should actually take note of this and then work at it. And also when it comes to the hygienic environment that the food should be sold, it should be the responsibility of the people selling around the places to ensure the place is clean. But failure to do that, it means that there are external people who have to come in and ensure that there's hygiene in wherever the foods are being sold. Because as an individual, I can't go and determine to the person selling that I want the place to be hygienic when all the other people, when the institutions have kept quiet. Who am I to say anything? No one hears my voice. But if policymakers would make it a point that wherever there are markets, wherever foods are being sold, if it is task force that they would deploy to ensure that every place that is a food joint, the places are made clean, I think that will go a long way, so that even without the nutritious food, children would not end up also contracting diseases from eating unhygienic foods, even when they are not nutritious or healthy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mavis, for that. Also reminding us about the asymmetry of information that exists between consumers, but also those who are selling it. But I also think that it also applies even to the smallholder farmers, because sometimes the people who are growing it are not the ones who sell it. And so those who are selling it, sell it at very exorbitant prices, and the smallholder farmers do not even get a fair share of what they are supposed to get. And so asymmetry of information is something that we we really need to look at in the food systems, and more transparency so that everyone can be in the know of market prices, of also information about our food. So that's really important, and thank you so much, Mavis, for bringing that across. Pauline, is it the same for you in, on this same question? The question really looks at our leaders and policymakers. What can they do really to strengthen our food systems?
Thank you. So I think they should implement policies that incentivize those producing and selling healthy food, and penalize or introduce higher taxes to those producing and selling unhealthy foods. For example, they could introduce something like sugar tax. I also think that open dialogues are very necessary in creating sustainable solutions that are beneficial to all the parties that are involved, especially when addressing issues that have to do with the population's health and nutrition. Therefore, accelerated actions to improve availability, accessibility, and affordability of healthy foods need to be implemented. There should also be development of transport infrastructure to enable hard to reach and non-agricultural areas to have access to the healthy food that we're speaking of. And when we do speak of food systems, we understand that dietary diversity is very essential. Therefore, dietary diversity should be increased across the country, and this should be done through an increased production of diverse foods. For example, maize is not the only crop that can be produced in Zimbabwe. Different areas can produce different foods to allow for variety. This then brings me to my next and last point. Nutrition education should be provided to all sectors, especially in schools, to allow school children to learn as they grow about the benefits of good nutrition, as well as the production sectors, and foster creation of a sustainable consumption pattern within the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pauline, for that, and that powerful reminder about what needs to be changed in our food systems. And so there are so many things that need to be changed. But I really like about your point about nutrition education, that this should be central. This should be available to as many people as possible. However, we also know that in developing countries, we do not have the right infrastructure. And so it is really crucial that we can create the necessary infrastructure that can be able to enable smallholder farmers to transport their food to markets, but also consumers, so that they can be able to access these healthy and nutritious goods. It is really appalling to hear that most of the foods that are produced really go to waste. And these are healthy food, and we do not even get to them because they go to waste. And so we really need to look at our infrastructure in developing countries. But also the last point, about incentivizing healthy foods. Sometimes, and I think this is common in very many countries, that it's really difficult and really expensive to get healthy foods. And so I think it's really a time where we need to incentivize healthy foods and also disincentivize foods that we consider unhealthy. So thank you so much, Pauline, for that. We really do appreciate your interventions. And I think now we'll go to Kevin from China, and because it gives us a really unique perspective, especially in terms of food systems and the impact on the environment. So Kevin, how can governments improve the food systems and its impact on the environment?
Well, I think the following aspects may be helped. Through dialogues and discussions like tonight, public service announcements, and food education in school and society, more children, their parents, and even all the whole of society can participate, understand, respect, and act. Also, we can use the way we want to promote environmental prediction on the new media platforms, new social platforms, and public figures such as sports, movie, and television stars. So that is complete, can enter our hearts deeply. Government should continue to strengthen environmental prediction and produce more healthier and more delicious healthy food. Thank you. Over.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And I think the issue about environmental sustainability is really crucial for children, because we are speaking about our future. We are speaking about the future of children and the next generation to come. And so I really like your point that we need to ensure that our food systems do not exacerbate the ecological scarcities that are there, and also that this does not negatively impact our environment, our biodiversity, and also destroy our nature. So thank you so much for that. I think we'll go to Margarita, all the way from Netherlands, just as, answering the same question. What can governments really do to improve the food systems so that they do not have a negative impact on the environment and on nature? Margarita?
I think that if you plant like food forests or other food kind of places near markets or restaurants, the food can be made cheaper because you have more. And then children or other people can go look at how it's done or see how it all grows. And it's also more tempting and more appealing for the children and other people to get food there and see how it's all done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margarita, for that. And it's really interesting to know that you are leading a project on food forests, really, where you are helping other young children to know about where their food comes from, and also growing this food very close to markets. And those who do not even have food can come and get food from those food forests. And I think this is really great to see how we can use demonstration for climate conscious kind of production in our food systems. And so thank you so much for that. I see we have two more minutes, or I think 3 more minutes. And I wanted to ask you, because you have been home for quite a long time, especially considering the COVID pandemic. And so I just wanted to figure out, in your own estimation, how has the COVID pandemic affected yourself, but also other young people in getting healthy and nutritious food? Do you think the COVID pandemic has played a part in this? We can start with Margarita, and then we can take all the others. Do you think the COVID pandemic has really affected your access or other children's access to healthy food?
For me, it didn't really change a lot, just that my parents more made my food and I didn't really get the chance to buy any. So I think it was more healthy, but it didn't really make a big difference for me. So.
Thank you, Margarita. And I really like that you were able to eat more healthy when you are at home because of that fact. Thank you so much. Let's go to Mavis, all the way from Ghana. Did the COVID pandemic really affect your access to healthy food, or even other children in Ghana? Were they affected by the COVID pandemic in accessing food that is healthy and nutritious?
Yes, it really did affect a lot of children, and then because I'm living in a home with a lot of adolescents as well. And so it happened that because of the fear and panic that it came with, everyone didn't want to go out and all of that. People around were not also selling. A lot of markets were also closed, kind of, even though it was open and they could go and then sell the things out to consumers, they failed to do because they also feared for their lives. They thought they should be indoors, and a lot of the things also, the prices of the stuffs also rose higher because a lot of people were not selling, and so the demand was higher and the supply was very less, and so it gave the opportunity for people to sell at very high prices, so they could not, a lot of people could not afford it, so that they can also get what they want. And then it happened so that a lot of the adolescents had to be sticking to one particular food, even though they had to be eating varieties when it comes like fruits, and then the vegetables that needed to be added and all of that. A lot of people just stuck to their carbohydrates and then just the protein, at least just that, because they couldn't go out to get the varieties that they needed. And of course, we can all tell that we don't only need two nutrients to make sure that it's a balanced diet. We need a lot more things than that, and to even boost our immune systems and all. But the lockdown and then the pandemic caused a lot of things to change, and people couldn't access the foods that they had to access. Thank you very much. Over later.
Thank you so much, Mavis, for letting us know and reminding us that COVID really, the COVID pandemic really disrupted supply chains for our food. And so very many people were affected by that. But also it brought about high food prices because there was a difficulty in getting to markets and also for consumers to access them. So thank you so much for that perspective. Kevin, is this the same for you? Did the COVID pandemic really affect how you are able to access healthy and nutritious food, but also other children in your country? Were they affected by the COVID pandemic in accessing healthy and nutritious food?
Well, there are little influence on our food and food supply during the COVID-19 pandemic, but there are really some impacts on our food habits here. Nowadays, you know, we are used to use serving chopsticks and spoons at meal times and influence in individual serving. And we also dine together as few as possible. So maybe it's a good change for us, I think. Over.
Thank you so much, Kevin, and telling us that the COVID pandemic really was able to affect how the food practices that you do experience in your country. Thank you so much for that. Pauline, would you be so kind to tell us about how COVID has affected your access to nutritious food, but also in your country?
Thank you. So I think the pandemic sort of affected us in both in positive and a negative way. Positive, negative wise, the food supply chain was disrupted, especially in terms of our dietary diversity at household levels. Most of the farmers markets where you would find fresh, cheap vegetables were not as accessible due to the restrictions that would come about because of the pandemic. However, the positive side of that is a lot of home-based nutrition projects started to come about. You would find people telling stories of how they were coming up with nutrition gardens in their backyards. So I think it was a slight push into the right direction, but on a larger scale, we were still facing that very low dietary diversity score at household levels.
Thank you so much, and letting us know that COVID pandemic really enabled people to innovate, to think about how they can be able to grow their own food, and nutritious food for that matter. So that also improved access to healthy and nutritious food. So ladies and gentlemen, I told you that this my panelists were the stars of the show, and they really have proved it. I think you can be able to see that the report is really rich, considering that these are just a few of some of the sentiments that are coming out of that. And so I already see that the chat is going wild with a lot of commendation for these children and these adolescents. But you can all be able to access the link for the report, and you can be able to even go deeper to hear what these children and adolescents are really saying on that. I think our time is far much spent. We'll be rushing over to Victor, who will be coming to speak to us as we are able to conclude, letting us know now from a global perspective and also from a nutrition perspective, what does UNICEF think about all these things that we have been able to consider in this event. So Victor, the floor is yours.
So thank you, Victor, and from Victor to Victor, thank you. Thank you for hosting us today. Dear friends and colleagues, wow, this has been truly an inspirational panel. So thank you, Kevin, Margarita, Mavis, and Pauline for your reflections today. I am truly thankful to all of you. Your voices are always important, but today they are more important than ever as we advocate together for food systems that deliver those healthy and nutritious and safe diets that we want for all children, for all young people across the world. And the diversity of your opinions today were highlighting how diverse we are, but how we are facing similar challenges and similar problems. I promise to you that UNICEF works and will continue to work fully aligned with your aspirations. With you, we will continue to work on improving three key things. One is the quality of children's foods and diets. The second one, and many of you did mention this today, the quality of the food environments that children and young people live in. And third, the quality of children's food practices, dietary practices that Pauline was referring to. So my message, our message to you, to children, to adolescents, to young people today is one and only, we count on you and you can count on us because this is a partnership. So I want to be very brief because I realize that we're entering the last minute of our meeting today, and I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to ED4 and David Navarro for being with us today and for supporting us in this journey for the last 1 year. I want to say a big thank you to our colleagues at Western Sydney University for their long-standing partnership with UNICEF. I want to thank our teams in the 18 countries involved in the food systems dialogues with children, with adolescents, and with young people. And most importantly, as Victor said before, I want to thank all the children, all the adolescents, all the young people who have shared with us their opinions, their insights, their time, their energy. You are inspirational to all of us. Finally, I want to say a million thanks to my namesake, Victor Mugo, for co-hosting today the discussion. Victor, you've been wonderful with poise and with style. Thank you so much for also being a partner to UNICEF. So from Victor to Victor, thank you, Victor. And thank you everyone for being with us today. And back to you, Victor.
Thank you so much, Victor. Again, it seems like it's an endless Victor to Victor. Thank you. And so thank you so much for those sentiments and for those comments. We really do appreciate this. I just peeped into the UN Food Systems program, and I noticed that Dr. David Nabarro and ED for our ED will also be speaking at the event. And I hope that these are some of the sentiments that you can bring across to global leaders, telling them about what children really want to say, what children are having in their minds, what are their perspectives, their dreams, their ambition, and also their priorities for food systems transformation. I just want to borrow from Henry Ford, who said that coming together is the beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success. And so I hope that we can work together, all of us, children included, while prioritizing also their needs for this generation, but also for future generations, that we can be able to transform our food systems, and so that we can have everyone access healthy and nutritious diets everywhere. And so we thank you all for being part of this. We really do know that the journey has just begun for transforming our food systems. And so will you be so kind to join us in this journey together with children as we transform our food systems. Thank you so much for attending this. And we really do appreciate your time. Do have yourselves a great rest of the day.